I was Carson, a 36-year-old single father to two amazing kids, Ethan and Lily, 12 and 10, who lived with me full-time since my painful divorce from Amanda 3 years ago. 9 months ago, I met Natalie at a company party, a gorgeous 29-year-old financial analyst with ambition and charm. I proposed after a whirlwind romance, thrilled that life was giving me a second chance at happiness. What I did not see was how Natalie never truly connected with my children, a blind spot that would soon shatter everything. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button before I share how my perfect new beginning turned into my worst nightmare. The night I met Natalie remained vivid in my memory. It was at the annual holiday party for the marketing firm, where I worked as a creative director. She stood across the room in a deep blue dress, laughing with some colleagues from the financial department. There was something magnetic about her confidence, the way she commanded attention without trying. When our eyes met, I felt a jolt of electricity I had not experienced in years. "You should go talk to her, my coworker," Mark urged, noticing my stare. "I have kids, Mark. That usually sends women running," I replied, swirling my drink nervously. "You will never know unless you try." So I gathered my courage and walked over. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, and by the end of the night we had exchanged numbers. Our first date was dinner at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I was so nervous that I changed my outfit 3 times before leaving the house. Justin, my older brother, had agreed to watch the kids, giving me a thumbs up as I headed out the door. "Dad has a girlfriend," Ethan had teased, making me blush. "She is not my girlfriend. It is just dinner," I corrected him, though secretly hoping it might lead to something more. Natalie was everything I thought I wanted. Smart and ambitious, she worked as a senior financial analyst for a prestigious firm. She had traveled extensively, spoke 2 languages, and could discuss everything from modern art to economic theory. After the emotional drain of my divorce and the challenges of solo parenting, her sophistication and independence were refreshing. Our chemistry was undeniable. We started seeing each other once a week, then twice, then spending most weekends together. For the first 2 months we met when my kids were with their mother for visitation weekends. I was careful not to introduce Natalie too quickly, wanting to protect Ethan and Lily from getting attached to someone who might not stay in our lives. When I finally decided it was time for them to meet, I chose neutral territory, a local ice cream shop that Ethan and Lily loved. I arrived early with the kids, giving them a pep talk while we waited. "Remember, Natalie is very special to me, but you two are the most important people in my life," I assured them, watching their reactions carefully. Ethan sat with his arms crossed, his posture guarded. At 12, he was already showing signs of adolescent skepticism. Lily, always more open, nodded eagerly, though I could see uncertainty in her eyes. When Natalie arrived, she looked stunning in casual clothes, her smile bright as she approached our table. I made the introductions, feeling a strange mix of hope and anxiety. "It is so nice to finally meet you both," Natalie said, her voice warm but slightly formal. "Your dad talks about you all the time." Ethan mumbled a hello, while Lily launched into an enthusiastic description of her latest art project. I watched Natalie carefully, noting how she maintained her smile but seemed a bit rigid as Lily accidentally dripped ice cream onto the table. She handed Lily extra napkins without comment, but I caught a flicker of something in her expression. Discomfort. Annoyance. It was gone so quickly I convinced myself I had imagined it. My relationship with my children had always been the center of my world. After Amanda left, claiming she needed to find herself and moving across the country for a fresh start, I had thrown myself into being both mother and father. The early days were brutal, juggling work deadlines with school pickups, learning to style Lily's hair for picture day, and helping Ethan navigate bullies at his new school. Justin and his wife, Sarah, had been lifesavers, stepping in when work emergencies arose or when I simply needed adult conversation. We had established our own little traditions: Friday night movie marathons, where we built blanket forts in the living room, Sunday morning pancakes with faces made of fruit, and summer camping trips in the mountains. "You are doing great, little brother," Justin often told me, usually after witnessing one of my parental meltdowns, like when I burned the cupcakes for Lily's class party or when Ethan needed a science project completed overnight. The kids and I were a team. We had our rough patches, certainly, but there was an unbreakable bond between us, forged through shared struggle and unconditional love. I thought anyone who entered our lives would see that and respect it. As my relationship with Natalie progressed, small warning signs began to emerge. She would sigh when I had to cancel date night because Ethan had a fever. She would check her watch repeatedly during dinner if the kids were along. Once, when Lily left her toys scattered in the living room before going to bed, Natalie made a comment about teaching proper habits early. "Children need structure," she said carefully, moving a stuffed unicorn from the sofa to a toy bin. "My parents never allowed toys outside the playroom." I laughed it off. "Well, our whole house is kind of a playroom. You get used to it." She smiled tightly but said nothing more. Natalie always seemed to engineer our time together to exclude the children. She would suggest late dinners when she knew the kids would be in bed, or spa weekends when they were with Amanda for their monthly visit. At the time, I appreciated what I perceived as her consideration for my parenting schedule. Later, I would recognize it as avoidance. Despite these subtle signs, I fell deeper in love. After 9 months together, I proposed at our favorite restaurant, a small French bistro downtown. I had the ring in my pocket, a classic diamond that had cost 3 months of savings. "Natalie," I said, taking her hand across the table after dessert had been served, "these past months have been the happiest I have had in years. You brought joy back into my life when I thought it was gone forever." I dropped to one knee beside the table, ignoring the stares of other diners. "Will you marry me?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment I feared I had misread everything. Then she broke into a radiant smile. "Yes, of course, yes." The restaurant erupted in applause as I slipped the ring onto her finger. That night, drunk on happiness and expensive champagne, we began to talk about our future together. When I told the kids about the engagement the next morning, their reactions were mixed. Lily asked if Natalie would live with us, and if she could call her mom. The question made my heart ache, revealing how much my daughter missed having a maternal figure. "No, honey," I explained gently. "Natalie will be your stepmom, but Amanda will always be your real mom." Ethan was less enthusiastic. "Where will we all live?" he asked, his young face serious. "Is Natalie moving here, or are we moving to her apartment?" It was a practical question I did not have an answer for yet. Natalie lived in a sleek 1-bedroom apartment in the heart of downtown, while we had a modest 4-bedroom house in a quiet suburb, with good schools and a backyard where the kids could play. The question of where we would live after the wedding was one we needed to discuss. I did not realize then that this simple question would become the catalyst for the destruction of everything I thought we were building. The first serious argument erupted 3 weeks after our engagement. Natalie and I were cuddled on my couch after the kids had gone to bed, looking through real estate listings on her tablet. "This one is perfect," she said, showing me a luxury 2-bedroom condo in a high-rise downtown. "Walking distance to both our offices, amazing views, and there is a doorman for security." I frowned, scrolling through the photos. "It is beautiful, but where would the kids sleep? There are only 2 bedrooms. Natalie took the tablet back, her movements suddenly tense. "I thought they could share the 2nd bedroom. It is quite large." "Natalie, they are getting older. Ethan is almost a teenager. They cannot share a room." "Well, they are with their mother sometimes." "Right? We could convert the dining space for when they visit." "Visit?" I echoed, sitting up straighter. "This is not about visits. This is their home. They live here full-time except for 1 weekend a month with Amanda." Natalie set the tablet down, her expression carefully neutral. "Carson, be realistic. That house you live in now is falling apart. The location is nowhere near our offices. We both waste hours commuting. It is near their schools, their friends. Everything they know," I countered, feeling a growing unease. "Schools can be changed. Friends can be made anywhere. I thought we were building a life together, not just adding me to your existing one." The conversation escalated from there. For the first time, I saw a side of Natalie that disturbed me, a coldness when discussing my children as if they were furniture that needed rearranging rather than young humans with emotional needs. That night ended with strained politeness, the argument unresolved. But 3 days later, Natalie arrived with a stack of glossy brochures. "I have been thinking about our space issue," she announced, spreading the materials on my kitchen counter while the kids were upstairs doing homework. And I found the perfect solution. I glanced at the brochures and felt my blood run cold. They were for prestigious boarding schools, all located at least 2 states away. "What is this?" I asked, keeping my voice low so the kids would not hear. "The best boarding schools in the country," Natalie replied, as if it were obvious. Ethan and Lily would get world-class education, make connections that would benefit them for life, and we could visit on parents' weekends. I stared at her, unable to process what she was suggesting. "You want to send my children away." "Not away, Carson. To opportunities that would shape their futures positively." Her voice was reasonable, logical. "Think about it. Ethan struggles with math. Wright Hampton Prep has the highest math scores in the Northeast. And Lily loves art. The Westfield Academy has an arts program that feeds directly into Juilliard." I was stunned into silence, which Natalie apparently interpreted as consideration rather than shock. Plus, she continued, her voice softening as she moved closer, running her fingers up my arm. "We would have space for us. To start our marriage without immediate stress. To maybe even think about having a baby of our own in a year or 2. That broke my trance. "Natalie, no. Absolutely not. I am not sending my children to boarding school. They just lost their mother to divorce. I will not have them lose their father too." Her expression hardened. "They would not be losing you. They would be gaining advantages most children only dream of." "This discussion is over," I said firmly. "I need to check on their homework." I walked away, my mind reeling. But the conversation was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Natalie continued sending me links to boarding schools, testimonials from successful graduates, statistics about higher college acceptance rates. I deleted them all without response, hoping she would drop the subject. Instead, her comments about my children grew more critical. She began pointing out how Ethan was undisciplined with his study habits and how Lily was too dependent on me. "They need professional guidance, Carson," she would say. "The kind that dedicated educational institutions provide." When I defended my parenting, she would backtrack slightly. "I am not criticizing you. You have done amazingly as a single father. But there are limits to what one person can provide. These schools have resources we could never give them." The "we" felt manipulative, an attempt to make it seem like we were making a joint parenting decision rather than her trying to remove my children from our daily lives. The pressure intensified when Natalie began leaving brochures where the kids could find them. One morning, Ethan came to breakfast holding a catalog for Winchester Academy. "Dad, are you sending us away?" he asked, his voice small despite his attempt to sound casual. "No, buddy, absolutely not," I assured him, taking the brochure and shoving it into the trash. "Those were just some schools Natalie thought we might want to look at someday. But your home is here with me." But the damage was done. I saw the doubt in his eyes, the fear that had been planted. That night, I confronted Natalie. "You had no right to leave those where they could find them." I said, anger, making my voice shake. "They need to get used to the idea," she replied calmly. "The application deadlines for next fall are approaching. There will be no applications because they are not going." I rarely raised my voice, but I was close to shouting now. Natalie's response was chilling in its calmness. "Carson, I have compromised on many things for this relationship. I was willing to become a stepmother, despite never planning on having children in my life. But I will not compromise on the kind of home and life we build together." As the weeks passed, Natalie spent less time at our house making excuses to avoid family activities. When she did come over, she barely acknowledged the children, speaking directly to me, as if they were not in the room. Ethan responded with equal coldness, while Lily made increasingly desperate attempts to win Natalie's approval, offering to show her drawings or tell her about school projects, only to be given cursory responses. One evening, after Natalie had left following another tense dinner, Lily crawled into my lap. though she was getting too big for such things. "Does Natalie not like us, Daddy?" she asked, her blue eyes wide with confusion. The question broke my heart. "It is not that she does not like you, sweetheart," I said, struggling to find words that would not vilify my fiancée, but would not make my daughter feel at fault. "Natalie, just, is not used to having children around. She needs time." But even as I said it, I knew time was not the issue. What Natalie wanted was not to adapt to my children, but to remove them from the equation. The situation reached a breaking point when my brother Justin pulled me aside after a family barbecue that Natalie had declined to attend, claiming a work emergency. "We need to talk about Natalie," he said, handing me a beer as we stood in the quiet corner of his backyard. "Not you too," I groaned. Sarah already gave me the third degree about why Natalie skipped another family event. "It is not about her missing the barbecue," Justin said, his expression unusually serious. "It is about what Ethan told Sarah last week when she picked him up from soccer practice." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" Justin hesitated, then spoke carefully. "He asked Sarah if he and Lily could live with you guys if you got married to Natalie. He said Natalie told him that after the wedding there might not be room for them in your new place, but not to worry because she had found special schools where they would be happier." Cold fury washed over me. She said, "What, Carson? What is going on?" "Sarah and I have been worried for weeks. Natalie barely looks at the kids when we are all together. Lily asked me last time if stepmoms are always mean like in fairy tales." I sank into a patio chair, the weight of what was happening finally impossible to ignore. "She wants me to send them to boarding school," I admitted, "so we can start fresh, just the two of us." Justin did not hide his shock. "And you are still planning to marry her?" His question hit me like a physical blow. Was I? Had I been so desperate for companionship, so afraid of being alone, that I was willing to compromise my children's well-being? The thought made me sick. "I need to fix this," I said, more to myself than to Justin. "Some things cannot be fixed, little brother," he replied gently. "Some things just show you who people really are." The confrontation came 3 days later. I had been avoiding Natalie, using work and the kids as excuses not to see her while I sorted through my conflicted feelings. But when I came home from picking Ethan up from basketball practice, she was sitting in my living room, a stack of boarding school brochures on the coffee table in front of her. "We need to talk," she said, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "You have been avoiding me." "The kids need to get ready for dinner," I replied, nodding toward Ethan, who stood awkwardly in the doorway, basketball under his arm. "Go upstairs and start your homework, buddy," I told him. "I will call you when dinner is ready." Once Ethan was out of earshot, Natalie got straight to the point. "I found these in the recycling bin," she said, gesturing to the brochures. "You did not even look at them, did you? I told you my position on this, Natalie. It has not changed." "Well, mine has not either," she retorted, standing now, her arms crossed. "I have been more than patient, Carson. I have given you time to see reason. But we are supposed to get married in 4 months, and we still have not decided where we will live or how we will structure our family." "There is nothing to decide," I said, struggling to keep my voice calm. "My children live with me. Any home we create needs to include them. Any future we build needs to have space for them." "If that is not what you want, then what?" she challenged. "You will call off the wedding? Throw away what we have built because you cannot make one practical decision for your children's futures? Sending them away is not practical. It is cruel. They have already lost so much." Natalie's expression hardened. "This is my final word on the subject, Carson. Either you agree to enroll Ethan and Lily in boarding school for the fall term, or there will be no wedding. I refuse to begin our marriage with 2 children who resent me and a house in the suburbs I never wanted." The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I stared at the woman I thought I loved, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time. The beautiful, sophisticated exterior concealed something cold and selfish that I had been willfully blind to. "You are asking me to choose between you and my children," I said slowly. "I am asking you to choose a better future for all of us," she countered. Those children will grow up and leave eventually. What will you have then, if you have sacrificed everything else? Those children. I repeated the words bitter in my mouth. Do you even hear yourself? They have names. Natalie. They have feelings and needs. And I do not. She shot back, her voice rising. I have spent almost a year trying to fit into your ready-made family, pretending to care about school projects and soccer games, when all I wanted was you. Her admission hung in the air like a slap. Pretending to care. The words echoed in my head, confirming every fear I had tried to suppress. I need some air, I said, abruptly grabbing my car keys. I cannot have this conversation right now. If you walk out that door, you are choosing them over me. Natalie called after me. I paused at the threshold, turning to look at her one last time. That is not a choice, Natalie. It is a responsibility. They did not ask to be born. They did not ask for their mother to leave. But I promised them I would always be there, and that is one promise I will never break. I drove straight to Justin's house, my mind, a whirl of painful realizations. How had I not seen this coming? There had been so many signs, from the way Natalie stiffened when Lily hugged her to her constant rescheduling of activities that included the kids to her pointed comments about how peaceful my house was on. The rare weekends the children spent with their mother. Justin opened the door before I could even knock one look at my face, telling him everything he needed to know. The guest room is already made up, he said, simply stepping aside to let me in. Sarah appeared from the kitchen, concern etched on her face. The kids, she asked immediately. Still at home, I said, the reality of my situation suddenly hitting me. Oh God, I left them there with her. I need to go back. I will go, Sarah offered immediately. I will say I need to drop off a casserole or something. The kids can come stay here tonight too. As Sarah left on her rescue mission, Justin guided me to the couch and handed me a whiskey. Talk, he commanded. So I did. I poured out everything from the boarding school brochures to Natalie's ultimatum to her admission that she had been pretending to care about my children all along. I have been such a fool, I concluded, staring into my glass. You have been a man who wanted to believe in second chances, Justin corrected gently. There is no shame in that. I almost sacrificed my children's happiness for my own. I said the admission, painful but necessary. What kind of father does that make me? One who came to his senses before making an irreversible mistake, my brother replied. The question now is, what are you going to do about it? The answer was clear, had been clear from the moment Natalie issued her ultimatum. I just needed the courage to follow through. When Sarah returned with Ethan and Lily, their faces solemn and confused, I knew it was time for honesty. I sat them down in Justin's living room, taking a deep breath before speaking. I need to talk to you both about something important, I began. It is about Natalie and our plans to get married. Are we going to those schools? Ethan asked immediately, fear evident in his voice despite his attempt to sound tough. No, I said firmly. You are not going anywhere. You do not want to go. Ever. But Natalie said. Lily began, then stopped, looking down at her hands. What did Natalie say, sweetheart? I prompted gently. Lily glanced at her brother before continuing. She said that after you got married, we would need to go to special schools because she and you were going to start a new family. She said we would be happier there because you would be happier without us making messes and noise all the time. The words felt like physical blows. Ethan put his arm around his sister protectively, his young face hard with anger that no 12-year-old should have to feel. She said you would still love us, he added bitterly, but that grown-ups need space from kids sometimes. She showed us pictures of the schools and said they have horseback riding and fancy art rooms like that would make it okay. I moved to kneel before them, taking both their hands in mine. Listen to me, both of you. Nothing, absolutely, nothing in this world is more important to me than you. Not Natalie. Not any relationship. Nothing. I am so sorry that she said those things to you, and I am even more sorry that I did not see what was happening sooner. Are you still going to marry her? Ethan asked the question, simple but loaded. No, I said, the decision crystallizing into certainty. I am not. The relief that washed over their faces was both heartbreaking and validating. I pulled them both into a tight hug, vowing silently that I would never again put them in a position where they questioned their place in my life. The next morning I drove back to my house knowing Natalie would be waiting. She was sitting primly on the living room sofa, as if preparing for a business meeting rather than a personal confrontation. "Have you calmed down and thought about this rationally?" she asked by way of greeting. "I have thought about it very carefully," I replied, remaining standing, "and I am calling off the wedding." For a moment, genuine shock registered on her face, as if the possibility that I might choose my children over her had never seriously occurred to her. "You cannot mean that," she said, her voice faltering slightly. "We can compromise. Maybe just one of them could go to boarding school to start, or we could look at day schools instead." "This is not about schools anymore, Natalie. This is about the fact that you do not want my children in your life. You have made that abundantly clear, not just to me, but to them." "I never said I did not want them," she protested. "I just want us to have a chance to start our marriage without immediate complications." "They are not complications. They are my children. They are part of me. Anyone who truly loves me would understand that." Natalie's face hardened. "So that is it. You are throwing away everything we built over some misguided parental guilt." "No, I am protecting my family from someone who sees them as obstacles rather than people," I replied, surprisingly calm despite the storm of emotions. "Inside me. The ring is on the kitchen counter. Please leave your key when you go." What happened next surprised me more than anything else in our relationship. As Natalie gathered her things, her phone chimed with a text message. She checked it, then gave a bitter laugh. "Perfect timing," she muttered, shoving the phone back into her purse. "What is it?" I asked, more out of reflex than genuine interest. "My brother Thomas," she replied, "wanting to know if we have set a date for the wedding yet. He always did have the worst timing." I had never met Thomas, though I knew from Natalie's occasional mentions that they were not close. Something about her tone made me curious despite myself. "You never talk much about your family," I observed. Natalie paused in the act of collecting her jacket. For a brief moment, her carefully maintained facade cracked, revealing something vulnerable underneath. "There is not much to say," she said with forced lightness. "Thomas was the golden child. I was the afterthought. Boarding school was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. It got me away from being a perpetual disappointment." The admission caught me off guard, offering a glimpse into the origins of her attitudes that I had never seen before. But it was too little too late. Understanding the source of someone's dysfunction does not obligate you to endure its effects. "I am sorry you had that experience," I said honestly. "But it does not give you the right to repeat the pattern with my children." Natalie's expression closed off again. "Always the perfect father," she said mockingly. "I hope it keeps you warm at night." With that parting shot, she walked out of my house and my life. The strangest part came 2 days later, when my phone rang with an unknown number. It was Thomas, Natalie's brother. "You do not know me," he began awkwardly. "But I thought you should hear this from someone in the family. Natalie has a pattern. This is not the first relationship she has tried to separate children from their father." He went on to explain that Natalie had dated a widower with a young son 3 years earlier and had pressured him similarly to send the boy to live with grandparents. That relationship had ended dramatically as well. "Our parents shipped us off to separate boarding schools when I was 11, and Natalie was 9, Thomas explained. "It messed her up more than she will ever admit. I think on some level she believes that is just what happens to children in relationships. They get sent away." The conversation left me with complicated feelings, pity mingled with the hurt and anger. But it also confirmed that I had made the right decision not just for my children, but perhaps for Natalie too. Some cycles need to be broken, not perpetuated. The weeks following the broken engagement were difficult but clarifying. I had to make the awkward calls to family and friends explaining that the wedding was off without going into painful details. Most people were sympathetic, though a few questioned whether I was making a mistake. "She seemed so perfect for you," my colleague Mark commented when I returned the wedding gift he had already purchased. "Appearances can be deceiving," was all I could say. My focus became rebuilding the sense of security that had been damaged for Ethan and Lily. Though they never said it outright, their actions showed they feared another potential abandonment. Ethan became clingy in a way he had not been since right after the divorce, wanting to know my schedule and checking in throughout the day with texts. Lily had nightmares and would crawl into my bed in the middle of the night. "Are you sad about Natalie, Daddy?" she asked one night, her small voice piercing the darkness. "I am sad about what happened," I answered truthfully, "but I am not sad about our family staying together. That makes me very happy." "Me too," she whispered, snuggling closer. To help them process everything, I planned a special weekend trip, just the three of us. We drove to a lakeside cabin in the mountains, spending 3 days hiking, fishing, and talking around campfires. Away from the routines and reminders of daily life, the kids gradually opened up about their feelings. "I tried to like her, Dad, I really did," Ethan confessed as we sat by the lake, fishing rods propped against rocks beside us. "But she always looked at me like I was doing something wrong, even when I was just being normal. I know, buddy, and none of that was your fault. Sometimes adults make mistakes in choosing partners. I made a mistake, but I want you to know that I will always, always choose you and Lily first." "Promise?" he asked, sounding younger than his 12 years. "I promise," I said, putting my arm around his shoulders. "No relationship will ever be worth sacrificing your happiness and security. Ever." With Lily, the conversation was equally heartfelt, but took a different direction. "Will you ever get married, Daddy?" she asked, as I tucked her into her bunk in the cabin. "I do not know, sweetheart. Maybe someday, if I meet someone who truly loves all of us." "How will you know if they really do?" Her question cut straight to the heart of my failure with Natalie. I thought carefully before answering. "I will look at how they act, not just what they say. How they treat you when they think no one is watching. How they include you in plans and dreams for the future. And most importantly, I will listen to what you and Ethan think, because you two are the best judges of character I know." Her smile at that was worth all the heartache of the past weeks. Upon our return home, I found unexpected support from various quarters. Justin and Sarah increased their already substantial presence in our lives, with Sarah often dropping by with home-cooked meals or offering to take the kids for fun outings to give me a break. My parents, who lived several states away, made a special trip to visit my mother, hugging me fiercely and telling me she was proud of the father I had become. Even more surprising was the support from coworkers. Mark, who had initially questioned my decision, showed up at my office with tickets to a basketball game for Ethan and me. "My brother is a single dad too," he explained. "Toughest job there is. Thought you guys could use some fun." I also connected with a support group for single parents, finding comfort and wisdom in the shared experiences of others who were navigating similar challenges. One evening, after a particularly helpful meeting, I found myself talking with the group facilitator, a family therapist named Diana. "Have you considered therapy for yourself?" she asked gently. "Not because there is something wrong with you," she added quickly, seeing my expression, "but because what you went through with Natalie likely triggered some deep insecurities that might be worth exploring." Her suggestion made sense. I had spent so much time worrying about the kids' emotional well-being that I had barely processed my own feelings about the broken engagement and all it revealed about my judgment and fears. The therapist I eventually started seeing helped me understand the vulnerability that had made me susceptible to someone like Natalie. The fear of being alone, of failing as both a father and a man, had led me to ignore warning signs and compromise on values that should have been non-negotiable. "You were looking for someone to fill the gaps you perceived in your life," Dr. Marshall observed during one session. "But those gaps, particularly the absence of a mother figure for your children, cannot and should not be filled by just anyone. They require someone who genuinely wants that role, not someone who sees your children as obstacles." Over the months that followed, I developed stronger boundaries and clearer priorities. I learned to recognize my own worth as a parent and a person, to understand that being alone was far preferable to being with someone who did not share my fundamental values. Most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts about people and their true intentions rather than seeing what I wished to see. 6 months after the broken engagement, My life had found a new equilibrium. The kids were thriving, our bond stronger than ever. I had been promoted at work, the extra income, allowing me to finally renovate parts of the house that had been neglected since the divorce. We had even adopted a dog, a gentle rescue mutt named Cooper, who had become Ethan's constant companion and Lily's favorite cuddle buddy. The most unexpected development came in the form of a letter from Natalie. It arrived on a Tuesday, her familiar handwriting on the envelope causing a momentary tightness in my chest. Inside was a 3-page letter that began with an apology. She had been in therapy, she wrote, confronting the damage her own childhood had caused and recognizing the patterns she had been perpetuating. She did not ask for reconciliation or forgiveness, merely acknowledged the hurt she had caused and expressed hope that the children were well. I never learned how to be part of a family, she wrote toward the end. My parents taught me that children were burdens to be managed rather than people to be cherished. I thought I wanted a partner without understanding that you were a package deal with 2 amazing kids. I hope someday to heal enough to be worthy of a family of my own. But I know now it would not have been fair to build that family at the expense of yours. Reading her words brought a complex mix of emotions, relief and vindication, tinged with a sadness for what might have been if she had been a different person or if I had been more discerning from the start. But mostly, I felt a sense of peace. I had made the right choice, the only choice when faced with her ultimatum. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Daddy, are you still sad about not getting married?" I considered the question carefully. "No, sweetheart, I am not sad about that anymore. I am actually grateful." "Grateful?" She echoed, her small face scrunched in confusion. "Yes, grateful that I realized in time what really matters. And that is you and your brother, and the life we have built together." She smiled, satisfied with the answer, and snuggled deeper under her covers. "I am grateful too. And Daddy, yes. When you do find someone to marry someday, I think they will be really, really awesome, because you are." Her simple faith in the future brought tears to my eyes. "I think so too, Lily. Now, get some sleep. I love you. Love you more," she mumbled, already drifting off. As I stood in the hallway between my children's rooms, listening to the peaceful sounds of their breathing, I realized the most important lesson from everything that had happened. True love, whether romantic or parental, is never about ultimatums or conditions. It is about acceptance, about embracing the whole person and the lives they bring with them. It is about finding joy in being together, not in rearranging the pieces to fit some preconceived notion of perfection. My children were not obstacles to my happiness. They were integral parts of it. Anyone who could not see that would never truly see me. And I would rather be alone than be with someone who only wanted parts of me, who asked me to sacrifice the most precious relationships in my life for the promise of a lesser love. What is your experience with blended families? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between a relationship and your children? If you found this story helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more real-life lessons, and share with someone who might be facing similar challenges. Life is too short to compromise on the things that truly matter. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you navigate your own journey with courage and clarity.